Whether you like it or not, you're selling yourself every single day. From something as big and important as a job interview or first date to something as commonplace as trying to convince your friends or family what movie to watch or where you should go for dinner. But like all things, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And much of what's still being taught today about selling strategies and sales techniques is not just wrong, but actually downright dangerous, with many still promoting these hacks and these tricks and these scripts that push and pressure and try to coerce prospects into doing something that may not be best for them. So what if there was a better way? A way that worked with your prospects and not against them. A way that not only allowed you to sell more, much more, but also to feel way better doing it. And a way that allowed you to leave those high-pressure sales strategies of the 1980s well behind you in favor of a more ethical and far more effective approach. Well, my friend, fortunately there is. And the secret to selling anything to anyone, making more sales without being salesy, and finally mastering the art of selling all comes down to understanding the psychology of selling and how to apply it for you and your business. So let me show you how it's done. First off, it's important to address the fact that I am probably the world's least likely salesman. In fact, one of the things that attracted me to the world of marketing in the first place was actually my fear of selling and the desire to essentially do all of my selling ahead of time, without actually ever needing to talk to somebody in a sales process. You see, my original goal was to get so good at marketing that I could do all of my selling beforehand, essentially making the selling part easy and effortless and just happen naturally. But there did come a point where I was eventually going to have to face the fact I was going to need to do some selling. That is, if I wanted to make enough money to eat and pay for gas and things like that. So I did what I always do, and I dove headfirst into starting to study and really research what separated the world's best salespeople from those that were struggling to get by, hardly making any sales at all. Not only that, but what was the science behind it and those psychological triggers that allowed some salespeople to just make sale after sale and do it effortlessly and easily and enjoyably and go on to have very long and very prosperous and profitable careers? Well, what I found surprised me. First, the bad news. All of those traditional, old school, Wolf of Wall Street style sales techniques you see, well, they're still very much alive today. They don't work like they used to. They often make you feel kinda gross and kinda shady for even using them. And they're one of the least effective ways to build a long-term relationship with a prospect based on trust and mutual respect. Yet, for some strange reason, they're still being taught and promoted today. Now, the problem with this, besides the obvious ethical reasons that it's often pushy and way too aggressive, is that it ignores the fact that today's prospect, today's consumer, is far more educated and far more aware than at any time before in history. Prospects are already jaded and cynical and have been aggressively sold and marketed to for a very, very long time, so their guard is naturally up. This means you can't try to trick them or try to fool them or try to push them, and the second that they feel that that's what you're trying to do, their guard goes up and your chances of making a sale are pretty much gone, and probably forever. But that's a good thing, because that's not a great way to do sales anyway. I mean, let's be honest, nobody likes that guy. Okay, now the good news. In my research and in my experience over the past 10 years, I've discovered that there is a way to do sales well and have it feel good too. Yes, that's right. There is a way to sell pretty much anything to anyone and do it in a way that builds trust and respect and authority and maybe a little bit of appreciation and admiration too. Sounds good, doesn't it? It's because this new way of selling, which is a more psychology-based approach to sales, well, it works with your prospect rather than against them. It's based on empathy and understanding and caring, as well as leveraging proven human behavior conditions and psychological triggers and heuristics, which is fancy talk for these mental shortcuts that we all make instantaneously. Anyway, when you get these right, the end result is more sales. Far more easily, and a happier you and a happier prospect. It's the ultimate win-win. I'll give you all the details on exactly what this looks like and how to incorporate into your sales in just a second, but first, a big thank you to this video's sponsor, Omnisend. Omnisend is an e-commerce marketing platform built for nimble e-commerce teams who want to increase their sales, not their workload. With pre-built e-commerce automations and email templates and no-code drag and drop editing, merchants can get started right away and evolve as they grow. This means there's no need for costly subscriptions to multiple platforms. Simply start adding channels like SMS and push notifications while creating personalized messaging with data-driven segmentation, all from the same platform. And you can learn more about Omnisend by checking the link in the description below this video. All right, Let's start with sales psychology principle number 1. The very first and possibly the most important concept in all of sales psychology is understanding that emotions sell. So the better that you're able to tap into your prospect's emotions, the higher the likelihood of making a sale and the higher the likelihood of your message being remembered and being internalized. The beauty here is that it almost doesn't matter what you're selling, whether you're selling a very emotional product or service like something to do with travel or insurance or family or health or something like that, or even some kind of widget or generic thing like a wrench or a pen. I don't know why I have a wrench on my desk. There's a great book that goes over all of this called Contagious by Jonah Berger. In it, he gives a really good example back from 2008. You see, back in 2008, Denise Grady, who is a writer, had to get people interested in a pretty dry topic, being fluid dynamics. I guess that's a pretty wet topic. Anyway, the way that she did this was by using a very visual image of somebody coughing with fluid particles coming out of their mouth, which, let's be honest, that's kind of gross, and it evokes a very emotional response. Anyway, it worked. People ended up talking about it, they ended up sharing it, they ended up sort of having it resonate with them because it really tapped into that emotional response level. In this case, kind of fear or a bit of being grossed out. And that's important to remember when we're talking about using emotions in your sales. You want to try to find something that taps into a deep physiological response. Think about sweaty palms if you get nervous or a racing heartbeat when you get excited. Anything like that is going to give you a higher likelihood of making a connection with a prospect and having them not only connect with you, but also the message more, so they internalize it and they start to view it as their own. See, the reality is that emotions sell. People don't buy things because they want things. They buy things because they want the emotional response that they believe they're going to get from buying those things. And the better you're able to communicate that, the higher the success you're going to have with all of your selling. Which leads me to my next point, which is to answer the question, why do customers buy? Well, kind of already half gave it away. Essentially, they buy things because of the expected feelings and emotions they're going to get from it. But it can get even more simple than that, which is they do it for one of two different emotions, to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. You see, the main reason that pretty much anyone buys anything is because they think it's going to help them avoid something painful they have right now or gain some kind of beneficial outcome that they want in the future. The way that I look at these is as miracles and miseries. Their miseries is their current state. It's all of their pains and problems and fears and frustrations and all of the negative things that they're going through right now in the present. Their miracles, on the other hand, are all of those end state, that after state, the end result of what they'll get from doing business with you. These are their wants, their goals, their dreams, their desires, and everything that they hope or expect to get from buying from you. The better that you're able to understand and then clarify their miseries and their miracles, the better you're going to be able to use your offer, your sales, as the bridge that helps them cross the gap away from their miseries and towards their miracles. So now that we have a better understanding of that, let's tap into 6 proven psychological selling strategies in order to really help you get your message across. These are taken directly from the book Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath, so I highly recommend you look at that book as well. The first principle here is that you need to make sure that your message and that your sales pitch and that whatever it is that you're trying to sell is simple. Please do not overcomplicate things. Simple sells. Complicated confuses. This is why, as much as possible, you want to try and focus on one main thing. Of course, one of the main tools in selling is to ask questions, and the reason that we do this is to figure out what main thing we should be talking about when we're trying to promote our offers. Well, find that main thing that's the most important to your prospect and then focus there. Next, your message needs to be unexpected. Now, I'm not suggesting you use tricks or gimmicks or hacks or anything weird like that, but make sure that there's some element of curiosity, some element of intrigue, or something unexpected that allows them to tap into that novelty aspect. Because when you do, they get a bit of a dopamine release, which makes them like you more and also makes whatever it is you're selling that much more interesting and appealing. Next, make sure that your message is concrete. In other words, you don't want to be abstract with your concepts. You don't want to use these weird metaphors or these ideas or stories that are hard to grasp. You want to be really crystal clear. Again, remember the simple concept. For example, if you're selling, say, a car, you don't want to use terms like high performance, you want to use concrete terms like V8. Next, you need to make sure that your message is credible. Essentially, you need to prove what you're saying. So who else has bought your product or service? Who else have you supported? How has it been used in the past? What case studies or testimonials? Or essentially, what kind of proof? Why should someone believe you? Remember, customers and prospects, they're cynical, they're jaded, they're skeptical because they've been lied to before. but not you. You're gonna do it better. The next thing is that it needs to be emotional. This should sound familiar because we talked about it right at the beginning, but again, people buy for emotional reasons. Whether they like to think that they're rational and logical human beings, at the inside, well, it's pretty much all emotions that's really running the ship. Lastly, stories. Stories, like emotions, sell. In fact, the more relevant and interesting your stories are, well, the higher the likelihood of you making the sale really is. And as an added bonus tip, one of the fastest and most effective way and effective tools that you have in your arsenal as a sales professional to get a prospect to lower their guard is to use this one simple statement. Let me tell you a story. Yep. That's it. All right, the next way to really tap into sales psychology is to learn from great marketers. Now, marketers and marketing in general is one of the most important and valuable things you could ever hope to study as a sales professional, because marketing is really just sales, but rather than one-to-one, it's one-to-many. And the marketing message is typically done through text, through audio, or through video. But other than that, all of the same principles really apply. What we're trying to do is communicate value. We're trying to show a prospect how what we have is important and how it could help them. This is why there is so much to learn about sales from marketing, and perhaps there's no greater place to start than one of the great marketing and advertising legends, David Ogilvy. So here are 3 great Ogilvy tips to help get you started. The first of which is to really research, talk to your customers, read your competitors' ads, look over their sales material, and make sure that you're intimately familiar with whatever it is that you're selling. The reality is that just because something works right now doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. And in fact, it probably won't, because things are changing and they're changing fast. Number 2, you want to find a unique angle, some kind of hook or some kind of idea that allows you to cut through the noise and really make a crystal clear impression and profound impression on your prospect. For example, Listerine, the mouthwash, well, it sold perfectly well for 20 years before the advertising hook that it cured bad breath was introduced. But when this new hook, when this new angle was introduced, sales exploded. In a good way. Tip number 3 is to understand that the best salesperson in the world, the best marketing in the world can sell anything once. But you need to make sure that product quality is there, service quality is there, if you want return sales, which is typically how empires are built. All right, so with all that said, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is check out the video I have linked up right here on how to improve your sales process and increase business. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the next episode. You need to incorporate into your sales process to make sure that you're getting great results, not just now, but into the future as well. The way to do this was described to me as diagnosing